And there we go. So again, we are recording. I'll talk about that in a second. And then I'm also going to connect to Yonder Front. Hey, look at that. It's not there. Very good.
Mr. Becker, I have a question.
Go ahead. Who is it?
Aurora.
Hello, Aurora.
Hi. What is the assignment sheet?
Did you get it or not?
All I see is a short.
Hey, I just asked that, so I thought
Yeah.
Did you get an assignment sheet sent to you guys?
No.
All right, so let's take care of that right now. That's why I asked that question. Yep, it's right here. And yep, I didn't hit post. There we go. Now you're going to get it. You're going to get it right now. So the assignment sheet.
Okay.
So please, when I'm asking you guys questions in class, I said, did you get the assignment sheet? Somebody here was like, uh-huh. So I'm going to connect to Yonder board. And it's still not doing it. So, okay, it should be coming to you any second. When you get it, open it, please. This is the assignment sheet for this essay we've been working on. We are talking about the college admissions essay. So it's just giving you due dates and stuff for it. There we go. Okay, so have you guys gotten it yet or not? As I'm seeing nodding now, so you have seen it, okay. And I'm trying to connect to the smartboard so I can kind of look at you guys that way. Oh, couldn't connect. We're having some tech issues today, man. Is that me or is that something else? What is it?
It's assignment sheet. It's just
Oh.
coming through.
Okay, all right. Well, you could see it before you got the
Yeah.
notification? All right, very good. All right, so I'm going to ignore this right now because I need to get going, and I don't know why everything tech is collapsing today, but I'm going to continue talking. You guys remote, Mara, you can still hear me okay?
Yeah.
Hey, let's talk about a couple of quick things that have really nothing to do with today's assignment. First of all, I'm now recording. This is the first Zoom I've recorded all year. You know I told you previously that microphone is very good and very capable, so obviously be careful what you say. Several reasons, not just to make fun of somebody that's virtual. It is fun to make fun of people. Like the social distancing going on right now with Ashlyn and Nora. So that's always a good time. But so be careful, don't say anything bad. I don't know that you would, but just make sure that you're recorded. And it goes to Nora. Also, I had a junior pull something shifty 2 days ago. Haven't had this happen yet. But in the time of Zoom, right, all these different things happen. So a junior who shall remain nameless logged in for a remote session. But never turned the camera on, which is okay so far. I'm not mandating you guys to turn your cameras on, so just get that out of the way. If we have a problem like the juniors, I will. Anyway, so the student logged in, and I kept saying to the student, hey, can you answer question number 1, talk about it? Student would unmute, but never answer, right? And then at some point, the student not only unmuted, but then turned on like the camera, and it was somebody completely different that was on there. The student was not home, was doing whatever the student does, and just had her family member log in for her, so it would look like she was there in class. So, of course they did, because it's going to happen. It's no big deal, and it's not like punishment stuff, but you just can't get marked. You can't get marked present for the class. So I'm telling you this so that we don't have any problems with our seniors, that it did happen with juniors, and that it's something for you not to do, right? So that makes sense. That's why I was saying something to Mara. I'll call out the different people. Like Caleb's there somewhere. He was here, but then he wasn't there and everything else.
Was it an accident? Did they like?
Oh, no, it was not an accident.
No.
No.
Didn't know the video, I mean. Like,
No, they turned on to be funny and whatever else. And then so the next day, so yesterday, the student came in and I said, hey, student. And it's funny because, we were doing the login for the JCC stuff yesterday. Simmons is like right here. He's in the building. And the student was sitting right there. And I said, hey, you didn't log in yesterday. Yes, I did. I said, no. I said, someone else logged in for you. And then I saw someone else get on the screen and stuff like that. And I said, you understand that? No, I was there the whole time and blah, 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 all that stuff. And I said, you're just going to be marked absent for that. And the student was like, oh, that's okay. And Simmons is like, really? So you were committed to lying, this whole like elaborate story, like you were really there, and then you just bailed. So it was super weird. So please be mindful of the fact you have to be here when the class is going on. I know, again, Mara Carson's not. Mara might have not been here, but she is. So we're recording for Carson specifically. But understand that obviously it's live at any time and you should still be here. So, I
Mr.
don't know
Becker,
if you have any questions about that? What I just
I
said?
have a question.
Who's that? Is that Izzy?
It's
Very good.
so like if we're homesick and we log on, do we still get just as much credit as if we were in the building, or do we have to take the absence if we're homesick?
No, if you're okay, that's a great question. And so I go back to Noah, and apparently Allie's
I
never
didn't
touched
hear that.
technology before, so we're trying to turn this up so I can hear you
There's
better.
something there.
Right
Oh,
there,
that
there
one,
you
yeah.
go. Very good.
There was something on the side too.
Izzy, to answer your question, which by the way is a good question for everybody, and I should mention, if you are absent or you have a doctor's appointment or whatever else, this isn't even let me do it. Heck with you. If you are absent for any reason, you can log in, and if you're here, you get credit for the day and you're present. But Izzy, I would just mark you present remote.
Okay.
So you do not lose, it doesn't count as one of the days missed. You don't lose any credit. You can still participate in class. You're merely present remote, if that makes sense.
Yeah. All right. I was just wondering.
And so any one of you that has something you're going on, I just mark you present remote and we go from there. So, okay, let's talk about assignment number 1. You've already been doing this, so it's not really a surprise about what it is. But I would like you to look, first of all, at the due dates for the different things, which should be at the bottom of the document. And Colin, Flickama, you can get that? You see it? Okay, I just want to make sure as I come back here and pull it up as well. All right. That's me whistling. Oh, I can't do that. All right, let's do this. Anyhow, so the due dates are special and important because of the things that we have going on. And so, for instance, Essay 1.0, in years past, we would do that written. You did it last year, the handwritten thing. So we can't, I actually don't mind collecting paper from you. That doesn't really bother me, but we can, for this, we can avoid it. So Essay 1.0 is going to be a Google Doc with that word count. So we're not going by pages. We're not going by any of that stuff. It's by the word count. Essay 1.0, I look at. So when you give that to me on Monday, by the way, midnight. These are, with one exception, they're all midnight. So you give me 1.0 by midnight, I'll look at it and kick it back. I merely want to see your progress. Now, this is a complex essay. And I think Maddie's great. Maddie's going to be fine. But let's pretend for a second that Maddie kind of gets hung up on this. If you get stuck, and you're not sure, 1.0 is a chance for me to help you, for me to kind of like redirect you and get you on track and all that stuff. Also, every year, so I've been doing with classes most recently 3 years, and of course for about 10 years before that, there's always 2 or 3 kids that don't quite understand. And either they're too shy to say they don't understand, or they just don't realize they don't understand. 1.0 is my chance to fix that. Let's solve that problem. Most of you will turn in 1.0, sail through it, it's cool, and then we go from there. 1.1, which is going to be on the 25th. Please note that 1.1 is going to be the peer review essay. Now, we have here, if everybody's here, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. If Carson's here, we have 10. So here, and I didn't even look to see what letter date is, but it won't matter because we'll do a bunch of these all year long. I think our peer reviews are not going to be a group of 3. I usually like to have a group of 3 when we do them the right way. Students in a group of 3 can be done in one class period. 4, maybe, but often not. And a pair, of course, you can get it done. When you guys went home, and I actually want you to think about this as a class, and I want you to tell me, we'll maybe talk about this tomorrow. You did it this way. You did peer review with one person back in the spring. And so I guess I'm really interested to know how that worked for you. If you thought that working with just one person is good and you will have enough help, then we can do it in pairs. Otherwise, we can do it in groups of 3. Also, if you wanted to work with somebody that's remote, we can do that. It's going to take just a little bit of messing around, but we can do that. I would suggest, though, if you happen to be remote on a day we're doing peer review, Some of you guys, what, used Snapchat last year? Some of you guys used Google Hangouts. You used all sorts of stuff. Any of those things are okay. I want you to use what you're comfortable with if you are remote, but I want you to understand that I need evidence of the peer review. You might remember for Essay 3 last year, I needed you to email me or also provide your peer review sheet, like your comments, the plus minus TWO. I need to see those. Your portfolio must have those. That's a huge thing. Your portfolio needs to show evidence of peer review. And of course, that's for the end of the year. But that is a requirement. That's like a major JCC point. So I think tomorrow I'll give you a day, 24 hours to think about it. But I'm really interested, and I'm going to make my plan off of you. The juniors have peer review too later. If they say something different than you, that's totally fine for me. But I want you guys to be comfortable. And I also could do a group of 2, groups of 3. No groups of 4, though. So I could allow a group of 3. We can mix it up. This whole virtual stuff, there's lots of changes that have to happen. That could be one of them. So are there any questions about the way, what I'm asking you for peer review? So Caleb Anderson, do you have any questions about peer review?
Nope.
Very good. Any questions, Colin Petrie? No. Harvey, any questions?
Not really about the peer review, but I was wondering, like, did you say that our profile or portfolio or whatever has to be in paper, or can it be electronic?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I'm going to pause. Mute again, please. Thank you. So the portfolio, we're going to learn and spend time going through how to make it all virtual. And I'll even give you an example without telling you details. I saw Macy Johnson's a couple years ago just by accident because I could. Macy's was awesome, and she was at JCC and did it with JCC. She did a really nice job. I probably should have given her a heads up that I was saying something nice about her before I said something nice about her. But you can do a virtual portfolio using Google, and they look super good, and I'm going to show you that. But to answer your question, Ashlyn, you can use a paper portfolio. It's totally acceptable, completely okay. The 2 people we are working with to read your portfolios are pretty reasonable people. I would be stunned if either one has like a fit and says, no, I'm not touching paper, I'm only doing like digital virtual stuff. So to answer your question, Ashlyn, either way should be fine, though I will train you how to do the digital style. Let's go back to Essay 1, the assignment sheet. So you'll notice that Essay 1.1 was 250 words. That's a little bit more than a page. So for this essay, and most of the JCC essays in 1530, they go by 750 words. They do not go on page count. That's because I know you won't, but typical college students will say, oh, a 3-page essay, and they make it like there's a column of text in the center. The margins are all wrong. The font size is 400, so there's like 2 letters per page. Whatever. Look, it's 4 pages. And great. But the word count is what's going to be important. So 250 for 1.1, a little bit more than a page, similar to what we did last year. The next one, 1.2, is again due by midnight on the 29th. Now, 1.1 is due in class. You have to come to class with that. You show up for class with 1.4, 1.1 for your peer review without it. You now have been kicked out of peer review for that essay, and you have to find someone else that is willing to work with you later. We will not use a second of class time for you to reprint the essay or whatever else. You have to have that. But the rest of the essays are all midnight, and that's the same with essay 1.2. 1.2 I go through. That's the one I'm going to make comments and give them back to you with in a PDF that has comments on the side. Do all that type of stuff. That's my job. I go through that. So that's going to be essay 1.2. That's due on the 29th. And then finally on 10/2, that is a Friday, I believe, if I have my math correct. Friday at midnight, that's when the final essay is due at 10/2. A couple days late last year, I think we were done on the 29th, but again, with everything else, we're just a little bit behind. So that final essay needs to be 750 words because of the next assignment, which I have not shared with you. Don't do 1,000 words. You can, but it's going to make the next assignment harder. So you want to try to stay as close as you can to 750. I'll explain more about that later. Now, Allie has a question. Remember, virtual people, if you have a question, you've got to raise your hand by, like, speaking. Otherwise, I can't hear you and I don't know you have a question. Allie has a question, though.
Big shock, I know.
I know, it's terrible. You and Aurora are 1 for 1 today. Let's go. Who's going to
Okay.
win? Go ahead.
So it says on the thing, if your first submission does not meet every requirement on the sheet, like it's like, so does that mean we have to have the 3 parts, like all 3 paragraphs, or can we do it how we normally do, where we just start writing and stop when we stop?
Okay, so are you talking for like the final one? Or what
For
are you
the
talking
first one, because like for the first one, or
Okay.
like for the drafts, can we do it as, do we have to have it full on and then like fill it in, or can it just be start? and
That's good. That's a very good question that Allie asked, and I want to talk about it for a second. 1.0 can be anything. Like, give me your first paragraph. Give me a couple lines from each paragraph. Whatever you want, that's fine. For 1.1, because you're peer reviewing with a classmate, I really would like to see evidence of all 3 sections. So to make that clear, 1.1 should be evidence of all 3 sections. Certainly 1.2, because I'm reading it, and I want to give you feedback. So there should be evidence of those things. But, and I was just going to get to this, Allie's catch of that line is very important. So if you could go back to where that is, that's about just above the dates, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if you could look at this essay assignment sheet just above where the dates are, you give me an essay that's not in MLA format, I kick it back to you, it's late. By the way, you have until midnight, so you could fix it and give it back to me. But if 11:55 p.m. you submit it, I'm done, yay, and it's not an MLA format, doesn't have the 3 sections. Because by the way, I will have talked to you about that before. Your classmates will have talked to you about that before. If it's not complete, it goes back to you, and now it's a day late or 2 days late or whatever else. So it has to have all of those things. It's got to be 750 words. Now, you give me 740, I think I said this maybe yesterday, even though we didn't connect. You give me 740, life goes on. Give me 700, it's back to you. Give me 500, it's back to you. You need to give me as complete an essay as you possibly can for those steps in those ways. So are we all clear about what I'm looking for essay 1.2, 1.3, 1.1? Is there any confusion about any of that stuff?
I have another quick question.
Hold on. I just want to make sure that they pause for questions if anybody has any. Allie has another question. She's currently leading. Go ahead.
So do we don't have to have that, you said MLA format, do we have to
Yes.
have like the date, the name, I think for the very first draft, we have to
I'll
have
give
that
you-
too?
I'm not concerned about that, but as soon as you get to like 1.1 and beyond, and I'll remind you what the heading is. I'll put in Google Classroom the link for the Purdue OWL that we looked at last year. As a class, you juniors did last year. You did a really good job of MLA format. There were little things here and there, but for your first crack at it, I was really happy with how you guys did with your citing of your sources and your end references and the paper format. Very, very good. I can say that because I've had juniors before that were just a mess. I mean, we get to June and they're still like, where do I put my name? Like, they didn't figure that stuff out. So you guys are pretty good about that. So I kind of want to be done. 15 minutes left in class. I kind of want to be done with assignment number 1 and move on to something else. So last chance right now for public questions on assignment number 1.
I have a question.
And I thought you raised it. Who is it? Is that Nora?
Aurora.
What, Nora?
So this is Aurora, by the way.
Nora, I'm sorry.
Um,
All right, what do you got?
so for the 3-section thing that you were just talking about with Allie, that's the past experiences, a new understanding, and how it changed your life or whatever.
That's correct.
Okay, and we do like, is that supposed to be like 3 separate paragraphs?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So when you guys are doing your applications, there are many, and somebody just told me one yesterday, so I forgot already because there's so many, but you'll have some college admission stuff that they want 250 words. So when you do that, you just take it and make it one big paragraph. For the purposes of this essay, I do want 3 separate paragraphs. And to be completely honest, it's for me so I can see it easier. It's absolutely for me to help me out. But it also shows me where you think your breaks are. So even if we get rid of them for the next step and all that stuff, I do want 3 separate paragraphs, which helps me see the 3 parts. Does that make sense, Aurora?
Yep.
Okay. I also want to mention something else Aurora just said. a few of you, and they're always going to be 4 or 5 per class. It ends up not being the exact structure I gave you. It ends up being a little different. Your 1.0 lets me look at yours, and maybe your structure is a little different than other people. Alexis, was it you yesterday? Somebody yesterday, we talked about structure, and I was like, oh, yours could be a little different.
Me.
Allie, okay. So some of you will have a slightly different structure, but it still should be 3 parts, even if it's just chronological. So we'll still do that. So more questions about Essay 1 before, you can ask me later, but this is public questions for Essay 1. Okay, feel free to close the assignment sheet, but I would like you to open up the one that's the up-to-date and final list for short stories, please. This is the schedule for short stories. So let's get that open. Is this a short story question?
No, I
You'll
wrote
wait a
the
second.
author final question. Never
That's,
mind.
you have to wait for that because we're not there yet. When I had you guys in 7th and 8th grade, did we do the shame fingers and shame arms and all that stuff?
Yes.
All right, when you see Caleb, shame him next, because I added Caleb to the short stories. I think Caleb, isn't it blue? Is yours blue or are you green? Blue?
Blue.
Very good. So now we're all caught up and everybody has a time there. So Caleb, I picked that. If Caleb, you would prefer, this is me being exceptionally kind because I'm a wonderful person. Caleb, if you want to switch and take one of the ones that are mine, because you like another one, you're welcome to do that. Email me separately, Caleb. I will not issue a new schedule to everybody because everyone else doesn't change. But Caleb, if you want to swap, let me know. Otherwise, you have the one I gave you. And I'm doing all the others. Also, Caleb, you can't have the first 2 because this is me giving examples to the class. But if one of the other ones, there's, I think, 2, you want to swap, let me know. Okay, Caleb?
Okay.
Very good.
I think I'm fine with it.
You're fine with it? Okay, very good. So this is a final. This is really what it is. Let's talk about the presentation. You should do the following. You have now, for sure, you have your choice. And I think just about everybody picked it anyway, so that's what it is. So you absolutely should be reading or should have read your story, right? Like that should be the next thing you read for my class. So it's short stories. Again, if you remember, I said we're not doing a book first because I want you to do something smaller while you're writing your essay. So that should kind of take a little stress off. But I will tell you, you now have everybody's schedule. You are responsible for all of those stories on those days. So the very first story, I took a Tim O'Brien one off because it was actually one of the chapters of the things they carried. We read that last year. You were supposed to. So I took that off. So I do the first 2, and I will give you the presentation. I will give you an example of what you should be doing, but you have to read it. It is possible for you to have a quiz every day. And I don't remember what day Owen does. Owen, I think your story, I don't even remember what your story is off the top of my head. But if Owen's day comes and Owen wants to give you a quiz, Owen may give you a quiz. That sounds amusing, and Owen's got a big smile on his face. You can't see it. But you also have to grade the quiz. So be aware of that. Because I grade them, so you would have to grade them. And, of course, we want that to be relatively quickly. Also, your quiz can't be junk. It can't be like, what's the name of the story? No, it can't be that. It has to be a question that's going to be at least a little challenging. You can ask a question in like a short answer format. It could be like a paragraph or so. Okay. It could be done in like, I guess we could do like we'd use the board for this, assuming it worked. I guess you could do like a multiple choice, but this should be a challenging question. I want it to be something that's worthwhile. Also, no trick questions. What color socks are they when they're mentioned for like 2 words and then it's gone? Like it's got to be a question that's fundamental to the story. You will have quiz questions from me, and so I'll tell you right now, our first story that we do, it was the next Thursday, I think, we'll have a quiz. So be aware of that. But you are responsible for your story for sure. I want you to become an expert on your story as best you can. That means, so read it, and then type your story, put your story title in quotes, type it into the search box in Google, and go get it. Most stories that are in our textbook, and by the way, that's when you need to start bringing that to class. for the short story unit, your textbook should be with you every day. Until then, you don't have to bring it. But those days when we start those things, you should have it, because you might have Alexis or Sarah going, hey, go to page 27, the third paragraph, because we need to look at what's in that paragraph. So be ready for that. But you should be an expert. So look at Google. Look what people say. Most of these stories are significant. They are important. And so, for instance, and your happy endings, right? Okay, so Morgan, first Emily was going to do happy endings, and now Morgan did it. Now, Morgan, have you read happy endings yet? Okay, good. All right, we're going to talk about Morgan for a second. We're going to do this live, and I'm not going to put Morgan on camera. This will be amusing for me. This will be making me smile. You don't have you do have your book. Do me a favor. I want you to do the following. While we're here talking, Emily's read it already. Oh, God is right. Very good. Emily, Morgan, do us a favor. I want you to pick out yours right now, and I want you to look at it. And I don't say anything, but I want you to be sure that you're comfortable with it. I did say that to the class, right? I did tell you to look at your stories. Yes, they're kind of, anybody other than Emily not? I think I wanted you to check one and then look at it. I used the example of somebody from last year. Did I tell you who that was too, didn't I? I didn't tell you the example?
Yeah, you did.
Who did I tell you it was?
Oh.
Very good. It was Garrett Hinsdale. He chose Jesus Shaves. I like Jesus. Great. Okay. And he read it. And then he read it and he's like, oh, crap. That's really not exactly what I had in mind. And happy endings is the same way. So Morgan's going to read right now. Only I will get to see Morgan's face to see if her head explodes as she reads. So she's going to take a look at that right now. Yeah, really, the first part's really all you need, Morgan, but go get it. And Morgan's not alone, by the way, because many of you have chosen a story that has something in it that's kind of a big deal. And that means different things. I don't think anybody chose the Sartrapi story. I think that's mine. Because again, my mind is jello. I think that's my story. That's a story, that's a graphic novel about a poor girl, and it's a real story when she grew up in Iran and had to, she'd walk on the street and somebody 2 feet away from her would be hit with a sniper bullet and killed her. That's what she grew up as. So, I mean, some of it's upsetting for different things, but they can be challenging and upsetting. You good or not? What do you think? She has, you can't see it, but her hair is covering her face. She's done that, so I can't see what her face looks like. And that's the right answer, by the way.
Put your mask back on.
And so I'll let you keep looking. So I'm going to, because of Morgan, and I wondered it because I saw Morgan's name next to happy endings, and I was like, I don't know what that one. We'll see if she's okay with it. Some of you have some pretty heavy-duty stuff. I need you to look at your stories on Google. After we are done with the short stories, I'm going to remind you and teach you how to look for real, scholarly stuff. Every one of your stories has scholarly things about it that gives somebody, some person somewhere, diving into great detail about your story. On your day, your presentation needs to be no more than 3 minutes. So now let's talk about the exact specifics of your presentation. Minimum 3 minutes, maximum 5 minutes. On the day of your presentation, minimum 3, maximum 5. The expectation is you are going to cover your story. Don't get into your author. I do that. So as soon as and there's 2 Margaret Atwood, as soon as she's done with Margaret Atwood, I'll tell you about Margaret Atwood. I'll tell you about Nathaniel Hawthorne. I'll tell you about the author you have, Hemingway, and so on and so forth. But you need to focus on the story. The very first thing you all should do, and again, we're recording, but everybody's here with the exception of Heinberg, so make sure you get this down. The very first thing you need to do in your presentation, besides introduce yourself, hello, my name's Owen Reed, my name's Sarah Jo, whatever. You're going to say, my story was this, and this is what I think this story is about. And then you're going to talk about the literary significance. You guys can't see them really well at home, but there's literary elements behind me on the wall. They were there last year. You need to identify at least one literary element that your author used in the short story. I'll repeat. You need to identify at least one literary element that your author covered in your short story. Maddie Johnson has a question. Her hand is up, so I'm going to answer her question. Nobody remote has said anything, so if you're ready, unmute and be ready. Go ahead, Maddie.
So do you want this presentation to be done on PowerPoint or Google Slides?
That's a great question. That's a great question. So I said any visual is important. So if for whatever reason you hate Google Slides, you hate PowerPoint, for this one, you're kind of okay. So if you want to do like, a poster board, we'll zoom in on, I really don't care. This is our first one. I don't want your stress to be on how you're going to do the visual. Deliver the information. However, Google Slides works. If you do a visual, I need to see it ahead of time. Not just because of the content of your story, because again, some of them are questionable, but at the same time, I also need to make sure you're prepared. So I want to see it ahead of time, especially Google Slides and PowerPoint. I'm not throwing up a slide up on the whiteboard here, the smartboard, that accidentally has profanity or whatever else. When we get to some of the other topics, when we get to like you doing a presentation where you're arguing a topic, you want to start arguing, for instance, as somebody did 2 years ago, I think we should have the death penalty for rapists. And they started their presentation with an actual story about a woman who was raped, and it provided some of the gruesome details about them, which, by the way, I was fine with. I don't need a visual on that. Let's not be dumb, right? So that's one of those things like I need to see for your protection and mine. And this is just the same thing with this story. So I need to see those visuals ahead of time. Now, we have 2 minutes left. I know I gave you the year-end paper, and I put that last for what we cover, and we have not gotten to that today, and I'm okay with that. But I definitely want to make sure that we're okay about the story. So your question was about the final paper, so I'm going to ignore that right now. But last chance before we run out of time, questions from everybody about the presentation, what you're going to be speaking to people. I know some of you are remote, some of you are here. I have an answer for that, but we don't have time today, so I won't quite get into that yet. What's your question?
So I feel like this.
By the way,
is
this is Ally.
And you might have already said it, but are you gonna?
If I said it already, you're fired. What?
Like a sheet. Like I haven't seen one yet, and like the first ones start Monday for you. Are you gonna give us
What are you talking about?
like for a description of what we're supposed to do in the presentation? Are you gonna give that to us after your example?
Well, I'll give you my example and we'll talk about it.
Okay, so it's
So
not.
that's, I deliberately, because you need to see how I do it, and I'll give you, in the first 2 I do. And I think that's Thursday and Friday next week though, isn't it?
I think it's Monday, Tuesday.
Am I wrong? Tell me if I'm wrong. What are the dates on that? Because I thought it was Thursday, Friday.
Then
And then the first 2? Then it's, that's next week, but then it's Monday, Tuesday, I'm wrong. So I thought it was Thursday, Friday, but you have it in front of you.
We also have the SAT start next week. Yeah.
Sure. Is it during you have a day of them, yeah.
I'm
You know
not
what?
sure. I just want to let
I'll look. I know and I'm not gonna confuse people. There are 2 scheduling things I'm already aware of that's going to make a change. Again, I didn't want to confuse people, but we'll talk about that. I did get that email from Mr. Simmons, so I did see it. Do you have the date pulled up or not? Did anybody pull that up?
what?
The date that I do my first presentation. Is
Yeah,
it?
Monday, Tuesday.
Oh, so it is Monday. Okay, so Monday, Tuesday, I'll do 2, and then you'll see what it looks like. We'll talk about it, and then Wednesday, and we begin from there.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll go. Remote, any questions from remote people? Take your silence as a no. I'll stop recording in a second. I will post the Zoom recording for this. It takes the computer a little bit to process it. So later on today, yonder people friends with Mr. Heinberg, make sure that you tell him that there's a recording he should look at.
I hate him.
You hate him. He's not a friend of yours. I appreciate the honesty. I think that's essential. Lying is no good. Have you told him you hate him?
Well, he did now.
Well, he does now. Oh, very good. Now it's out. All right, very good. Look, have a good day. I'll see you tomorrow, and we swip days, so we'll see you guys soon enough. Woo!
Mr. Becker, my thing you talked about yesterday for the end of the year thing
Yes.
is on that list. Does that mean it's not 100% yet, or is that like?
Go ahead. No, I put that's a final list for who people have. Yes.
Okay, but so like the offer that I brought to you yesterday is a no?
No, it's a yes, but I wanted you to do something now.
Okay, so it's just after.
So if I put it this way, I think you have enough.
Okay,
You needed to look at the books.
okay.
And because we just talked yesterday, you can have a couple more days for it.
Alright.
But obviously, the other people are already taken with all the things that they are taken from, if that makes
Thank
sense.
you.
You're welcome. And where are we? There we go. Everyone's gone. And
You feeling okay, Carson?